Because if I was wrong, then there's a level of boldness that's just stripped of you. When somebody comes at you and you know they right, that's why I don't hesitate to admit if I'm wrong. If I know I'm wrong,
that's good.
I don't hesitate to admit it. Because if I'm holding on to being wrong, that's just stupid pride. And I'm not going to do that. If you did somebody wrong and they're right and you're wrong, you got to own that. And I'm very, very big on that. But if I'm right and I know I was right and I know I was fair, and you try to punk me, I am not backing up. I'm just not doing it. And so I knew I was right in that particular situation, but then I took it too far because the world knew that there was animosity between us. And it got to a point where you had people inside the industry and outside the industry that knew something could potentially go down because neither one of us was going to back up. And, you know, I just said to myself, wait a minute, I'm the professional. You know, I know he's a professional ball player, but I'm in the media. This is ridiculous. It's going too far. And it's not like I think I can kick his ass. He's about 6'9", 240. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I like Steve, you know, pump the brakes, you know, control yourself. But I was just so fixated on knowing that I was right. I said, this is not right. And then what made it even worse is that years later, his son was in the league. Mm-hmm. And I saw his son.
But his son is a great, bro.
Yeah, great kid. Great kid,
like
right. But he walked by me. He walked by me like he was not angry or disrespectful. Right. He just walked by me like he was fearful of saying something to me. And I was like, that's ridiculous. That's my fault. And I remember after the game, we were in Houston, and I walked up to him and I said, whatever went on between me and your father, that's my fault. And I said, when I see him, and I haven't seen him since, I said, but when I see him, I'll apologize. I said, because I don't want you thinking that I would ever let any friction between he and I affect how I would cover you. You see what I'm saying? Yes. And so you start realizing that, wait a minute, when you sit in my chair and you have the kind of reach that I have with the public, I got a responsibility to be better. Yeah, and I thought I lost my way there. And then the other time was with Allen Iverson, because he and I didn't speak for a long time because he was upset at a story that I had written in 2010 when he was seen partying, you know, at a tournament or whatever, the CIAA college basketball tournament, when he was supposed to be on leave of absence because he was supposed to be with his family and stuff like that. And I wrote the story about, can't be partying, blah, 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 thinking that I was looking out because there was so much more to tell that I would never tell. Yeah. And he was so angry. You know, he wouldn't talk to me and I couldn't find him. And then I was hearing like, it was these threats like, you know, him and his boys, they looking for you in Atlanta. And if you get to Atlanta, it's going to be a problem. When I heard that, I called some boys and I had them meet me in Atlanta and I went looking for them. Because I ain't running from no damn body. Hell no, I ain't do anything. You must be out your damn mind. What's going on? And then finally we arranged it with his team, arranged for he and I to meet up. And we met up in Atlanta.
That's old school right there. That's
we met up in Atlanta. And you know, it was like, he's got to deal with it old school. Yeah. It was like, I'm ESPN. I told ESPN, stand down, step back, you know, because obviously I make a lot of money for the network. So they want to protect their investment. And they want to get involved. Like, nope, leave that alone. No police, no FBI, none of that. I'll deal with it. And I went down there and I met with him. And when I met with him, in about 5 to 10 minutes, I never felt smaller. Because I said to him, I'm sitting there like I didn't do anything wrong. He said it had nothing to do with the story. It had everything to do with that your name was on the byline. You my man. It broke my heart.
Oh, no.
To see that it was you that wrote the story. So it wasn't even about what was said.
Yeah, because most of the players
it was that it was me. And at that moment, I realized how much love he had for me and what I meant to him and how close our relationship was all of those years. And I was busy doing my job that I didn't take the time to really, really embrace the fact that he looked at me like a big brother and he trusted me. And even though I never betrayed his trust or anything like that, because I never would, I didn't know that he felt that way, that me just being general saying, you got to get yourself together without, I reached out to him, I was looking for him, I couldn't find him and stuff like that. But I understood that it wasn't anger. It wasn't arrogance. That wasn't what it was about. He was hurt that he saw this byline, and I had written that about him. And from that moment forward, I realized that we're brothers. I'm like a big brother to him, you know, and we have a different kind of relationship than I pretty much had with any other athlete. I mean, I've been tight with many athletes over the years. Kobe and Shaq and others stand out amongst them. But nobody is more synonymous with Stephen A. than Allen Iverson. And for me to see him, like, look, he's sitting right next to me, like you're sitting right next to me now.
Yeah.
When I tell you how hurt he looked, I felt terrible. And from that day forward, I made up my mind that I would never say anything about him unless I spoke to him. But I always let him know, you better make sure I can find your ass. Don't, because you're hard to find sometimes, you know. But it was that you just realize sometimes we're all human beings, man. And it hit me in a way where it just reminded me of the obligation that I have to show my humanity.
Yes, the empathy. It plays a big
empathy. I realize, and when you out there working and you on your grind, bro, and you know what you could say but you don't say and stuff like that, you're not thinking. You're thinking you're doing enough, but you don't get to determine that all the time.
You know what? I want to ask, like, what's more difficult, doing like radio, live TV? Or the soap opera, because you've been.
I love the soaps, man. You know, I have fun. Of course, that's the hardest for me because you got to remember those lines, and you know, if you mess up your lines,
is it General Hospital?
Yes, it's General Hospital.
ABC,
soap opera, ABC every weekday. ABC. My character's name is Brick. I'm a surveillance expert for the mob. You know, they actually let me kill somebody last year. It was pretty fly. It was pretty fly. I loved it. You know, but I grew up watching it, man. I've been watching the soap since I was 8 years old.
Okay.
Because I got 4 older sisters, so I couldn't watch TV when I came home from school unless it was on the soaps, because that's what the TV was on. So that's how I watched it, and to be a part of General Hospital now is great. But in terms of television or radio, I would tell you radio is harder.
Really?
Because you have to have more to say. You got to remember, you doing radio, it ain't some like guest appearance you on for 5 minutes. You hosted a radio show. You talk about it, in all likelihood, it's a minimum of 2 hours. So take commercials away, about an hour and 32 minutes, whatever, you got to have something to say. You know, television, you know, you talking about this subject for 5 minutes, talking about another subject for 3 minutes, and this commercial breaks all the time and stuff like that. Radio, you got to talk, you know, and me, I've hosted radio shows by myself. And so doing that, you got to know your stuff.
Yeah.
You got to know what the audience wants to hear about. You got to feed the audience, and you got to do so in a compelling and interesting way. Otherwise, they'll turn the channel and go to somebody else.